Is health insurance destroying your budget? Keep watching as we discuss potential low-cost options.
Hi, welcome to Marriage and Family Matters. I'm Sonia, and this is my husband, Brennan. Today, we're talking about health insurance.
Yeah, so health insurance is one of those things that you gotta have. And it can also be a make or break item in your budget, especially if you don't have insurance covered by your employer. So today, guys, we're going to talk about health insurance and a situation that we encountered during our recent transition in employment. And I just want to say, for the sake of transparency, we are not insurance brokers. We are not health insurance professionals. We are only speaking from our personal experience. So, guys, this information that we give, please do your own research behind it. And, feel free to comment if you have any questions about our experience with this particular option, and we'll be glad to share that with you.
Yeah.
Right. So, without further ado, here's what happened to us. So, as we alluded to in one of our earlier videos, in the beginning of the year, my wife experienced a transition in employment. She changed jobs. She went from a place where she was employed full-time with full-time health insurance benefits to a contract position that didn't cover any health or didn't provide any health insurance. So before this transition occurred, we were doing our research about health insurance, because we knew, especially with our history, that health insurance was something that we desperately needed to have in place before we made the transition. And we also wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to be a budget item that was going to destroy our financial goals. As you guys know, we will be debt free next month, December 15th. And we didn't want anything to derail that. So we had to sort of come up with a plan, for health insurance that was going to allow us to accomplish our goal and keep the family covered enough in case anything happened. So I got to speaking with a friend of mine, right, about health insurance. And, we did some research on the open market about with health insurance, and found out that, health insurance is pretty damn high. Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. The open market, what they quote unquote call Obamacare, those plans are really, really expensive. And, we were getting really discouraged with health insurance. And I know what a lot of you guys are thinking, right? I work full time. I work for the state. I have health insurance. Me and my wife had our own health insurance. I had my own, and her and my son were covered under her health insurance. Of course, when she transitioned jobs, their health insurance went away. The first thing we did is we looked at covering the entire family under my health insurance. And guys, I can tell you, that was a no-go. Essentially, I would have been working for health insurance solely. When it's just me by myself, my employer covers all of my insurance, it's free. But as soon as I add family, it skyrockets. And so we were faced with that dilemma. What do we do? And I'm just going to turn it over right now to my wife so she can sort of explain what we did to tackle this situation. So you want to go ahead and chime in?
Yes.
Okay. Was that too long? Too winded?
Well, you're supposed to pass the mic a little while ago, but that's okay.
I apologize, people.
So, like Brennan said, we were looking at several options because we were going from a known, comfortable situation to a really unknown, unfamiliar kind of territory with potentially no insurance coverage, which I did later find out that the contractor had an insurance option, which we also looked at as well as part of our research. So the tricky part, or the challenge for us, was trying to cover myself and a dependent. So that automatically increased your costs a little bit. So on the open share market, we were looking at options where the monthly rate was upwards of $600 and more, and then the deductibles would be super high. So you might as well just be paying out of pocket when you go to the doctor. So,
and hold on, let me chime in here. not to mention that those plans didn't cover a lot.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
It's okay. So then, when we went ahead and started filling out, there's a form that you have to fill out when you do the open share market to submit your information. One, to make sure you have a qualifying event to actually enroll in insurance, and then two, so that they can see what you actually qualify for. So with that, you do start to get exposed a little bit to where other insurance people will contact you. So I will say that as a warning, to be aware that you may receive phone calls from other people offering insurance. So we looked at that. We looked at something called a shared health plan through 4 different companies. All of them were Christian based. Well, I'm saying not most. All of them were Christian based shared health plans. I'm not sure how many people are familiar with that, but essentially it's not an actual insurance plan. It's a community of Christians who have pulled together some monies that they use to help cover each other's medical costs. And that's a very high level type of explanation. We hadn't had any experience with that, so that was a little bit uncomfortable for us. But we did have a friend who was using that, one of those shared plans. So we did choose to do some deeper research into that, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second.
And also, too, guys, it's one of the things that Dave Ramsey often endorses, the Christian shared ministry health sharing plan. And so if you listen to Dave Ramsey, you'll often hear him talk about that. And that's where I first heard about it. Never really knew anybody until I actually started talking to friends that were actually using it.
Right.
So yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there.
Okay. And then the other option we looked at is, like I just mentioned, once we did get some more information from the contractor, there was an insurance plan that they offered as well. But again, it was high cost with high deductibles.
Low coverage.
Low coverage. So you would have to pay more to get more coverage or to get the deductible down, which would then take us out of that sweet spot where we were trying to staying on track with our debt journey. So what we decided, circle back. What I will tell you from my research experience is that if you're in a position where you're having to decide on health insurance, you cannot be lazy. No. You will have to read, guys, because there's a lot of information to absorb, and it's an important decision. And if you need health care coverage, it's important for you to look at and pay attention to the details of what that insurance plan offers, what's covered, what's not covered, and what you can expect to pay for those typical doctor visits or the things that you, in particular, whatever your specific needs are. And it's especially important if you're going to the open market or the shared health plan. So I'll say for the shared health plan, we really were like, this would be a last resort. We did get contacted from one company that was offering a 0 deductible plan. Do you want to talk about that real briefly?
Chime in if I forget anything. So what we found when we were contacted by this insurance broker that was offering this 0 deductible plan was that it was a scam, right? It was one of these indemnity plans that don't meet all of the qualifications to be considered health insurance by the Affordable Care Act. So, when you file your taxes, you have to answer this question whether you're covered the full year with health insurance. Or you have to pay, a fee. This plan didn't qualify. And not only did it not qualify, we could have found ourselves, had we gone with this plan, in some serious trouble had we had a major health event, because it doesn't really cover much. Again, it offers no deductible, but it doesn't really cover anything. And do you want to talk about the cost with the set price?
Yeah, so this is just based on our research, and again, guys, we're not experts.
Do your own research.
Based on what we could find, it sounded like this type of plan has set coverage rates. So for specific types of treatments or medical care, this coverage would only, so for example, say you were in a hospital stay, this plan may only cover $500 a day. Well, then you get your bill back from your hospital stay. You may have only been there for 3 days, but your bill is $8,000. So you do the math. So your insurance is only going to cover $1,500, and you're stuck with the remaining $6,500 if I did my math right. But you can see how that.
Yeah, and that's also if the hospital takes that insurance.
Exactly.
Right. So it was very, very high risk to even consider that. Very low reward, and the cost was, okay, but it wasn't as, it was comparable to what we would have paid if we would have went with one of the shared ministries.
I will say it was very tempting at the time that we came across the information until we found the shared health plans and got some more information on that, and until we did the research to see how risky it was.
Yeah.
So please do your own research.
So, if you hadn't found out by now, in the way we're talking, we went with the shared plan. And the shared plan worked for us. Like my wife said, it wasn't a plan that was intended to be forever. It was a sort of short-term 6-month plan. Our goal was for my wife, to be full-time by the end of the year. If not, then we would ultimately transition to my health insurance, because at that time we would have been out of debt. And so we sort of had a plan B going into this. So again, it wasn't intended to be a full-time, long-term solution. It was a stopgap measure to solve an issue that we had at the time. And also, guys, when we did our assessment and looking at all these different plans, we took into consideration that, my wife and my son are fairly healthy. We don't make a lot of trips, or they don't make a lot of trips to the doctor outside of routine care. So we were banking on, the family continuing to follow that trend of remaining relatively healthy. Now, we also thought worst case scenario. So for that, we got on, with our basic shared ministry plan, we got catastrophe coverage. In case, the worst were to happen, we were paying a little bit extra so that we had that covered.
I'm gonna just interrupt for a second. So before we decided on a shared health plan, I did do some research to look at several of them. There's not just one. There are different options for your shared health plan. And I do encourage you look at those closely, because each of them differ. Some have additional fees outside of just a monthly contribution to the plan. So some have annual fees, some have administrative fees, so you want to take that into consideration. Some offer dental and vision, and some don't. So if that's something that's important for you, then you definitely want to pay attention to that. Another thing to consider with the shared health plan is that you should know that they're Christian based.
Yes.
So you do, on all of them that we looked at, you have to sign an agreement to a certain statement of beliefs that are all related to your commitment to living a moral and upright or righteous life, a Christian-based life, and that you believe in God, which of course we're Christians, so we didn't have a problem with that.
Didn't have a problem with that.
And then you also should know that there are several things that are not covered on those shared plan, because it's based on moral or righteous living. So things like breast implants, birth control,
cosmetic surgery, abortions,
and several different things that aren't covered. So you definitely want to go through the details of whatever plans you're looking at to make sure there's nothing there that would be impactful to your decision.
One of the big things that that stood out to us in looking at these things that weren't covered were events that were a result of alcohol and drugs. So if you were driving drunk and got into a really bad accident, using a health shared ministry plan or health care ministry plan, a shared plan, let me say that, it may not be covered. So there's definitely things that you need to take into consideration when you're considering this type of option.
We ended up going with Shared Health Alliance, and the reason I chose that one is because it was the plan that most resembled a regular insurance plan. It had co-pays for office visits. It covered a lot of the things that we needed it to cover. It offered the catastrophic plan so that anything over, I think, $8,000 would be covered, because that's the other thing, that these plans only cover up to a certain amount of money depending on which tier of those plans you go with. So you do need to pay attention to that as well, and you may need to do supplemental add-ons to cover anything that might be a major incident as well.
I think one of the biggest things that we may have forgotten to mention early on is the way these plans work. Is that they negotiate the price down with the provider, right?
Yeah.
So your hospital bill may be $8,000, but the plan and the administrators of the plan will negotiate your price down because they're paying cash for it and get it down to
Or it's actually you.
Yeah.
You,
I'm sorry.
You, the person being treated, can negotiate your price down because you go in as a self-pay. Because it's not an insurance plan. So you go in and you negotiate with the provider because you're the person that has to be responsible for paying for it. And a lot of times they will drop the price down because
dramatically.
You're considered self-pay.
Yeah. And that also sort of follows Dave Ramsey's statements all the time that cash is king. So you get a better deal when you pay with cash. Yeah. Especially if you don't have insurance. The hospital systems and the providers know that the likelihood of them recouping money from you at what they charge you is pretty low. So it's in their best interest to get the price down so that they can at least get something. And so our friends who used this plan and they had a small child did it, had no problems. Did you actually go on to use it?
Yeah.
Did you experience any issues with it?
No, the plan has prescription coverage, prescription discounts, not an actual prescription plan. And it also came with 24-hour phone
telemed.
Sorry, I can't think of what to call it. It's nowadays. I don't know if any of you have encountered it. A lot of the health plans come with these call a doc type of scenarios where you can call a doctor.
It's just telemed.
Well, that's a name brand.
Okay.
Where you can call a doctor and
on
get
the phone.
a medical consultation or do a video chat with a doctor. So you don't even have to actually go to the hospital, and it's no copay, no extra charge. So it's kind of like being able to get some additional care for free. And
I'm gonna tell you, even though I wasn't covered on this plan, I used the Teladoc for my thing. You use it for me.
Yeah, because I could cover you on that, the Teladoc. Yeah.
So it was great. Even though I got free insurance with my health insurance, we don't offer Teladoc. Not anymore. We used to have it, so I use hers.
It was just an easy solution. If you can't get to the doctor and you just need a quick answer, or you have a question for a doctor, it was an easy way to get access.
For something like antibiotic, it was fine.
Yeah. So having said all of that, we feel like we chose a really good option. It worked well for us. We ended up paying, I think, $67 to cover myself and Brent, my son, and that covered catastrophic and our regular coverage,
as well as dental and
as well as I opted to do dental and vision through my contractor's insurance because it was cheaper than through the shared health plan. So that was kind of complex, but it all worked out together to where we got it under $500, where all the plans we were looking at on the open market started at over $650.
So to cover both of you guys, it would have been double that easily. So they got health insurance for 50% at least 50% of what the open market was offering.
Yeah.
So 50% discount, man, and it was good for 6 months.
Right, and that wasn't the least expensive plan. So there are definitely options for every budget as far as what you could afford or where you try to get your number down. If $500 sounds like it's still too high. There are options that were less expensive than that, and then there was options that was more expensive as well.
And just one note before we get out of here. We didn't come across any negative information about these plans. And we looked hard, right? I couldn't find any situations where these plans didn't pay out. Yeah, I've read in situations where individuals had significant, serious health issues like cancer, and the health plans paid out. People got their whole, there had families that, had given birth, and entire hospital stays were covered. Everything was covered. The entire birth was covered. Mm-hmm. No out-of-pocket costs.
Right.
Because you paid a monthly fee, so they didn't have any out-of-pocket costs. And so these plans are good, viable options. They may not be long-term options depending on your situation, but there are at least good short-term options, and we are living proof of that.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like we could have probably pushed it to a year had we needed to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I probably would have stopped it at a year just because I'm just traditionally used to having insurance. But, I mean, it's a good option. So if health insurance is breaking your budget, guys, look at these options. Shared plans. And you can find them online. You can look at, just Google Christian health plans, shared plans, and they'll pop right up. You can YouTube them too if you want to get more reviews, additional reviews outside of, what we talk about in our experience. And again, just another side note, guys, we are not health insurance professionals. We are not experts, and we don't claim to be. We're just talking from personal experience, what we've dealt with, and how it helped our situation.
The information is out there, you guys. You just have to be willing to read it and absorb it all. Ask questions, find an insurance expert, and ask questions. That's what we did. We reached out to people who knew more than we did to figure out the things that we couldn't understand. We even searched YouTube for videos on insurance scams so we could understand this zero deductible option that we were looking at.
Yeah. So guys, with that said, this is just, again, an option. So sorry for being so long-winded, but we felt this was valuable information to get out to you. And, we don't have anything else to say on that subject, right? So hopefully you guys go explore the option if you want to. But, if you don't, that's fine. You have anything else to say?
No.
Sorry, I didn't know how to end the video. So with that said, guys, thank you for watching. This has been Marriage and Family Matters.
Where marriage and family does matter.
It does, guys. So until then,
Until next time, keep watching.
Keep watching.